What if thousands of people remembered the exact same thing, and every single one of them was wrong? In 2009, a woman named Fiona Broome went to a science fiction convention and got to talking about Nelson Mandela. She remembered vividly his funeral. She remembered the news coverage. She remembered his widow's speech. She remembered mourning his death in prison back in the 1980s. There was just one problem. Nelson Mandela didn't die in prison in the 1980s. He was released in 1990. He became president of South Africa, and he didn't die until 2013. But here's what stopped Broome cold. She wasn't the only one. Dozens, then hundreds of people remembered the exact same thing, down to the same details, and none of them could let it go. Broome called it the Mandela Effect, a phenomenon where a large group of people share the same false memory with the same wrong details and feel absolutely certain it's true. She built a website, and thousands of people flooded in with their own. And once you start looking, you see them everywhere. You probably carry a few yourself. The strange part isn't that we misremember. We all do that. The strange part is the agreement. So many strangers with no contact reconstruct the exact same error. It's tempting to reach for an exotic explanation. Maybe timelines shifted. Maybe we're sliding between parallel realities. Maybe the universe is a simulation and someone rewrote a few lines of code. It's a seductive idea, and a 2019 thriller was even built around it. But the real explanation is stranger and more uncomfortable than any of those. Consider the Monopoly man. If you picture him right now, you probably see a white mustache, a top hat, a tails, and a monocle. The trouble is, he never wore one, not in any standard version of the game. Yet millions of people see it clearly. Or the fruit of the Loom logo. A huge number of people swear it once featured a cornucopia, that woven horn spilling out fruit. It never did. Then there are the Berenstain Bears, the children's books. A lot of people remember them as the Berenstein Bears, with an E. They were always Berenstain, with an A. The odd thing isn't the mistake, it's how specific it is. How the same detail changes for everyone, in the same direction. You don't get a random scatter of errors. You get the same error, again and again, as if something is pulling everyone toward the same wrong answer. It happens with words we think we know by heart. In Snow White, the evil queen never says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall." She says, "Magic mirror on the wall." The mirror, mirror version comes from the original Grimm fairy tale, and it leaks into the Disney memory. Or the most quoted line in movie history. Darth Vader never says, "Luke, I am your father." He says, "No, I am your father." Go back and watch it. It's jarring. And then there's the strangest one of all, a movie called Shazaam from the 1990s, starring the comedian Sinbad as a genie. A lot of people remember it. They remember scenes. They remember the VHS cover. It does not exist. There was a genie movie called Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal, but Shazaam never happened. The brain, it turns out, doesn't just forget. It invents. And it can invent the same thing for thousands of people at once. So what's actually going on? The tempting answer is the supernatural one. Alternate timelines, a glitching simulation, reality being rewritten behind our backs. And you can see why that pulls people in. It feels like proof. If a whole crowd remembers something that never happened, surely reality must have changed. It's a more comforting explanation than the alternative, because it puts the fault on the universe instead of on us. But the real answer doesn't need parallel worlds. It only needs your brain and the uncomfortable truth that your memory has never, not once, worked the way you think it does. To understand the Mandela Effect, you have to let go of one belief in particular, the belief that your memory is a recording. It isn't. It never was. Your memory doesn't store experience like a camera saves video. It reconstructs it. Every single time you remember, your brain assembles the scene from scattered fragments and fills in whatever's missing. Psychologists call memory constructive, not reproductive. And the filling in isn't random. It leans on expectation. When the brain hits a gap, it reaches for what makes sense, what fits the template you already hold. A ritual man with a top hat and a mustache in the world of cartoons wears a monocle, so your brain helpfully adds one. A name ending in Stein is more common than Stain, so the brain corrects it to the familiar shape. This filling in is so smooth, so automatic, that you can't tell the difference between what you actually saw and what your brain invented. You experience both as equally real.
Confabulation is when your brain fabricates a memory without any intent to deceive. It simply fills the gap and moves on, and you believe it completely. Layer on top of that something called source amnesia. You remember a fact, but you lose track of where it came from. So you hear mirror, mirror in a fairy tale as a child, and decades later, your brain quietly grafts it onto the Disney movie. And here's why the same errors appear in so many people. We share the same cognitive templates, the same associations, the same cultural shorthand. The Monopoly man should have a monocle because that's the stereotype he belongs to. On top of all this, there's social reinforcement. Once a wrong version spreads online, it gets repeated until it feels like proof. Even Nelson Mandela's false death may be a conflation with Steve Biko, another anti-apartheid leader who really did die in prison. Same fragments, same brains, same direction.
So the Mandela Effect isn't evidence of a glitching reality. It's evidence of something far more personal. The same machinery producing a stranger's invented memory is producing yours right now. Every memory you hold has been reconstructed, edited, filled in dozens of times, and you can't tell which parts are real. Your certainty is not evidence, it's just a feeling generated by a brain that's excellent at making things feel certain. Which means the real lesson of the Mandela Effect isn't about parallel universes, it's about humility. Next time you're absolutely sure about a conversation, an event, a fact you know, leave a little room for the possibility that your brain filled in a gap and you'd never know. If you find the hidden systems behind how you think as fascinating as I do, subscribe. This is Hidden Mechanics.